Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest instalment of Remote Agile London. Hope everyone is okay this week. Nice to see some of you again. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces now, which is great. I feel like we're all part of a big Agile family as we sort of seem to catch up and chat every Wednesday evening. And some new faces as well. So welcome to everyone who hasn't been on Agile London before. Just to introduce myself, my name's Alex Scriven. I work for Oliver Bernard, the technology recruitment agency, but as a separate entity, we host 15 meetups with Agile London being one of them. Within the last week as well, Agile London surpassed 4,000 members on its meetup page. So, fantastic. Thank you to everyone for being so involved. Just a couple of house rules for anyone new. Please do remain on mute throughout the whole session. It's a bit challenging for our speakers when someone sort of pops in and a cough or there's some background noise or people start to talk during their talk. So please just do remain on mute. It helps with the fluidity of the event as well. And on that, I do welcome questions. And I know both our speakers will be very, very keen this evening to answer any questions that you have. However, can I just please ask that you do put the questions in the chat at the bottom. Message me privately your question, and please be really clear if you would like me to ask it to Anna or to Sheetal or to both. So just privately message me your questions, and please do get them in because they love it at the end. Previous speakers have loved it at the end when plenty of real juicy questions have come in. So let's kick off. A great event actually this week. I've got Anna Novikova and Sheetal Thaker speaking with us this week. Now, Anna is someone I've tried to get onto Agile London for some time, and just logistically it couldn't work. And exactly the same for Sheetal. And Sheetal actually runs her own meetup, and this is the first time we've collaborated with another meetup. Sheetal's meetup is Agile Xpertise, so join that as well. And make sure you get involved in Sheetal's meetup. So to kick us off, Anna, who is an Agile Coach and Scrum Master, her talk is 5 mistakes Agile leaders need to be aware of. Anna, do you want to just share your screen?
Yeah, let me just try. It says that host disabled attendee screen sharing.
No problem. That was because we had some technical issues at the beginning. Do you want to try it now? I've just screen shared all participants.
Okay, then a second, please. Sorry, just a second. Hold on. Oh, don't you just love technical problems?
Don't worry, you're not the first. We love them at Agile London. There's always an issue.
Okay, cool. I think.
Are you good now?
I got now. Yeah. Cool.
Perfect. We can see your screen perfectly well and your audio's good. So Anna, I'm going to hand over to you. Off you go.
Thank you very much. Good evening all. Nice to see you and to meet those of you that I don't know. It's my first time at this lovely event, and it's my first time at the lockdown as an attendee of this event speaker, so it's quite nice for me. Thank you. Interesting topic I've chosen. I thought, what can we do in 20 minutes that is important and lightweight and not too boring and relevant to all of us? I think we're all professionals in the industry of Agile space, and we all work with people. We all work with leaders. We all have our opinions. We all have our observations and expectations. And it's quite important that sometimes we can spot mistakes, in our opinion, that people or leaders can make. Funny thing is, we're all human. We all can make mistakes, but the leadership seems to have the higher price of their mistakes. And us being in Agile space as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, we are those people who help our leaders, who support them, and help them to be more active and probably make even less mistakes, if you can say that. So I had interest in leadership topic for quite some time now. It's all started with me having a job where I really admired the leader that we had in a project. And I saw their qualities, and I saw how they were with people, and I saw how they contributed towards the project delivery. And I thought, right, this is something that's there. Let me start searching for this interesting part that is leadership. Where my data comes from for this particular presentation, just to let you know, it's all my observations. Some of the knowledge I've taken from working with people, observing leaders I've worked with. Some of the knowledge, it comes from hours and hours of conversations with colleagues and friends, as we all do, and we'll discuss the topics that we like. I have bombarded my professional network with some Agile questionnaire as well. So asking them to answer some of the questions that are important for me. So just gathering the data in the industry. And some of the books that I read, and obviously, which is my achievement I'm proud of, I've done the Power E with Scrum.org. This is the leadership qualification. I will be in my presentation, I will be referring to Scrum.org here because I have chosen this path of qualifications. Absolutely try not to be disrespectful to Scrum Alliance. If there's any Scrum Alliance professionals are here, it's just my personal choice for Scrum.org. It just resonates with me deeply here as well. So again, my observations, my conversations, my questionnaire, and what I've taken for myself as an Agile coach and a Scrum Master, visible mistakes of our leadership. So I would start with looking at the book. This is the Agile Leadership book that I quite like. Agile Leadership Toolkit. This is Scrum.org by Peter Conning. Very lightweight, very interesting. And I've tried to search for a quote, really nice, heavy quote, what is Agile Leader is. And I couldn't find one because I don't think there is one that describes everything and everyone in one sentence or in two sentences. So in this book, I found interesting line that leaders are those who recently become or already are responsible, and responsible, the key word here, for people in Agile teams, several teams, complete Agile departments, whole Agile companies. Very broad, but responsible here is the word, because responsibility is a huge thing. So that's the quote that book is offering. But I also had some data asking my colleagues, my Agile questionnaire, about their views on, in their opinion, who is Agile leader that we all want to know. Just bear me a second. An Agile leader, again, this is an image. I couldn't find anything gender neutral for some reason on the internet. So here we go. So we're focusing on the leader here. Someone I look up and respect and will learn from. So that was the quote from a project manager from a fintech startup that I had the pleasure knowing. People see leaders as someone being in a firing seat if something goes pear-shaped, which is technically true. Sometimes it's still the case because people are seen as responsibility, delivery, non-delivery, it's a firing. So sadly, still the mentality is still there. And that kind of a leader whose mistakes are expensive. And this quote actually provoked my thought trail on what are the mistakes of the leaders that are so expensive. And another quote that I like, this is my colleague, Scrum Master. So she said that she likes her CTO because he wants to know how Scrum works, actively asking the questions, not being shy. So being curious about the framework that was chosen. So it's a trail in her eyes, of a good leader here. And going into these 5 mistakes. So the first one, and I would say this is the most common that I came across, or people I've spoken with from my coaching experience, from my private coaching as well, people approaching me for knowledge and sharing some of their problems with me as well. What I found out that not every leader in Agile space is aware of their style. Quotes like this, if you hear people or if you hear someone coming up with, I always trust people to do their job, but I have report as an evidence, and I tell them what to do next. Despite of Agile coaches and Scrum Masters working together with leadership, coaching, educating, helping, we still see quotes like this. And we still see for some leaders the need to control and command, or not to be curious about their leadership style as well, not to explore what else is there. Okay, so as I say, those conversations with people I had, the question was asked, and I thought, okay, so how would I answer that? It was a conversation that came to me, the person that came to me from application called Sharper. It's very useful for the network, and I'll share the details later with you. So that was a conversation of someone asking my opinion on what I think, and I thought, okay, so how do I tackle that? And I thought, let's think about this, something to think about. I gave them an understanding of command and control versus engage and align leadership styles. Gave a little bit of an overview of what they do, how interactions and communication and transparency is set up in this particular way. So this is the servant leader rather than the dictatorial leadership style here. And like in books as myself, so I like to recommend them to the others. Obviously, you are familiar with work of Simon Sinek. He's someone I look up in industry as well. He has Start With Whys and Leaders It Last. Great books, lightweight presentation of those. I have recommended this reading to this particular project manager who came up to me with this question. Result was interesting. They start thinking. And they came back to me and said, okay, so I see where I'm going wrong, but do tell me, how do I engage and align correctly? And I thought, okay, my friend, this is the second question. And as an Agile coaches, this is what we do. We get people to think and to start realizing what is it that they want to change by just having a conversation with them. Goes a long way. Again, I don't know how many of you will agree with me, how many of you may have had this experience as well when you're at a workplace, and you can definitely say that some of the leaders you worked with may not realize their leadership style. So, and could do with some help as well. So that was the first mistake in my eyes. But if we talk about the second one, it's also very, very popular. And in conversations with my Agile community and Scrum Masters community, this is also another sin, as we say. Being selective with Agile metrics. Agile metrics is a very funny thing, we could agree, because you don't really have something that is prescribed as a list of things to do. Like in traditional project manager, you have your metrics, you measure your budgeting, you measure your staffing, you measure your performance. You do have traditional metrics. With Agile, the lines are slightly blurry, and it all becomes more on a belief level rather than evidence-based. I had once a conversations with the delivery manager that was saying to me that, great, we've got velocity, it's going up, fantastic. I could definitely see that the teams that performing now, I can show velocity to my senior management to show them that we're getting better, we're getting agile. And they put a lot of overtime. And once we just sort out these rollover stories, we're good, we're really, really good. And this is how I can show that we're progressing. This is why I've kind of had a bit of a silent crying side. And I thought, okay, so Agile metrics, interesting topic. And I know the book's been written on this. I know that separate meetups been dedicated to Agile metrics, which is a very, very broad field of conversation. But my experience is with a particular person was to kind of bring their awareness to how is it looking from the team's perspective. So Agile metrics that we're asking them to produce, like velocities, we use velocity as a metric. How is it looking from team's perspective? Have a chat with their team. How do they feel about it? And the person came back to me and said, okay, so what's the next step? They're not happy. Surprise, surprise. Okay, let's have a look into whys. Why is this happening? Again, books I like. 2 books I could have recommended, I did actually recommend to this person on this particular occasion to read that, is the Agile Metrics in Action. It does not only focus on something that is figures, like I can see my numbers, but it also focuses on soft points like team's happiness, measuring ourselves against values of Agile. So it does break down this. I probably don't have enough time to talk about it, but you feel free to look into this book yourself. It's very useful. And once this delivery manager has the idea of this, I've recommended another book that is Actionable Agile Metrics for Predictability. It does have a little bit different data presented here. And I'm sure you're familiar with this book as well, and hopefully, like myself, find it useful. But that was just enough for this person to start thinking that velocity may not be the only, in their eyes, measure of agility. And again, if you think about it, agility cannot be measured fully. So what is agility? Everyone understands agility in their own different terms as well. So how do you measure something that different people have different ideas about, and also different organizations? So that's that as well. The success, I would probably say that this person, for me, success story in this particular case was that the person started asking questions, and then we had further sessions with putting some metrics, pulling the jury information, pulling the questionnaires for the team. How can I get the temperature of the team? If the team is happy, if not happy, and what are our agility metrics as well. So we have made a good progress on this one, which I was quite pleased about. Third, and I think, sadly, we still see this in organizations. No matter how much we say culture is the key for organizational change, culture is the key for agility, we still have some important key people in organization that do believe that name and shame is still the mechanism of motivation. And public flogging. At one of my assignments, we actually had something similar, not physical public flogging, but it was naming and shaming and getting an account of the things. All well and good, because the person needed to have the data and understanding how to improve, but little thought was given to the voice of Agile community there, and sometimes stubbornness of the person who is thinking that blame is the way forward, is an obstacle to improvements as well. What made me think about that is that I was talking to a CTO of a fintech startup, small company, but they had a CTO, and they were thinking that they've set up everything, but they were failing the sprint commitments, and the CTO felt obliged to get at the bottom of it and have an understanding who is responsible. And this is what they came to me with, saying, how can I understand, how can I put this on the person, and how can I just make it known to the wider organization that someone is to blame? And I thought, okay, so that's interesting. It's getting more interesting. How can I stop this person from doing this? Challenging case, because it's stubbornness of a particular individual that was an obstacle there. And I'm sure we'll have examples in our practice as well with something similar. What did I do? Sat down and tried to talk to a person, saying that, let's have a look what blame leads to. So what you're trying to do is actually blame and public flogging. The person didn't like to hear this, but at the same time, they were asking for my opinion, so may as well listen. And we've done this cycle of blame, fear, cover up, bad information, poor problem solving, and more errors, and how this affects people on a personal level, on the team level. And obviously it's a no-brainer. We don't use this in our practice. You know, our Agile principles and our adaptation of Scrum is anything but blame culture. So we should know that. 2 books, again, I thought may be useful for a person. Not sure they read them, but I have recommended them. And Everyone's Culture and Ending the Blame Culture. So in combination, from my opinion, it could have provided a whole picture of why it is not a good idea and how the culture should change for people being happy and sticking their hand up if something is not right, rather than living in a fear condition all the time. So that was quite useful. The person came back to me and said, okay, I'll think about it, which for me was already a good start, because they would come back to me again if they start thinking about it. And number 4 here, I don't know if you've noticed, but many organizations, once they start Agile adaptation with Scrum framework, they would like to know, are we Agile yet? And they're expecting results very, very, very fast because they see the investments they have made in teams. They see the money that has been spent weekly, monthly, and they would like return on their investment. So an interesting head of project I had a conversation with, that was what prompted me to think about that kind of route, is that the person said to me that it's been 2 months, the whole 2 months that they've set up the Scrum teams, hired an Agile coach, and they don't see good results yet. So for me, it's a sign of impatience, but also probably lack of understanding our world of transformation and how challenging it could be, and that you can probably don't put the time frames on it. You just go with the value that is produced at the end of the sprint rather than time to show that we're agile yet. And again, how agile is agile? We don't know. Everyone's got different opinions here. So what I did in this particular case was made them think that they're asking, are we agile yet? Is in comparison to children being a journey, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? So, and 2 books I have recommended to read again. The first one is Doing Agile Right. It's a very interesting snapshot. It's like a journey, it's a story, and it does have all the elements that is answering the questions of why you cannot implement Agile incredibly quickly. So why does it take time? So the rationale behind setting up the teams, the rationale behind getting up the right process, rationale behind getting the culture right as well, and then seeing the results. So for those leaders who are totally impatient, that is probably the best way to start realizing this information. Plus our old favorite in the industry, I know every one of you know this book, The Phoenix Project, a novel. So it does highlight a journey of a company setting up, having problems, really getting the result at the end of it. Interesting piece of read. So this particular person had became my regular client. So we had several conversations, and probably I was just more sharing my outlook on Scrum, the process, how it works, as I was their chosen framework, and agility metrics. So it was an overall interesting experience, but I had a huge thank you at the end of it. So that was my my little achievement, trying to persuade this person to go a slightly different way to where they were going. And the last one, so as I said 5, there's the 5th one. How many of you would agree to that? I think we all probably can raise our hand, because every now and then we see this from the leadership. Lack of respect for chosen framework. Here I refer to probably rules and some of the values as well. So this is example that I'll never forget. That was at the interview actually that I had for an interesting company. There was a payment startup, but I had an interview with the owner because they were not a big company. And the owner said to me that he really believes that it's really good to shake up the team sometimes, to change the composition, make sure that they don't stay still and they learn something else. So he says, I like to shake up people, I like to change the team members and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. How many Scrum Masters did you have since you've been in a business? And he said a lot. They keep leaving for some reason. And here I could detect that whether the framework is not understood, or whether it is understood but it's not believed to be effective, or whether the person has totally different opinion how things should be run, or whether it's not providing the proper respect for Scrum Masters, those who are the guardians of the process, or Agile coaches who would look into the agility of the company. So as I said, it was an interview, so I kind of had to think on the spot here. That was quite interesting. So my idea of a good answer to this was, think about the rules. Sometimes they're here for the reason. Some of the rules can be broken, some of the rules you need to break them with a great caution. And this is why. So low bridge, high lorry, there's a rule, no high lorries, but high lorry goes under the low bridge. Yes, it can go through there, but there's a cost to pay. And this is how it works in any framework. Framework is there to guide you through the good process, through the good understanding, good guidelines, okay? And have a good selection of tools as well. So I have I've recommended to go back to the basics and probably to have a little better understanding of framework that is not allowing you to change the team's composition. But if you need to understand that there's a bit of a dip in productivity because you're mixing the teams that already been set up, gelled, and work together. And this is the disruption that you are making as every time you decide to change something. Maybe it's not a bad idea, but it comes with a huge cost. So let's think about it carefully. Let's tread carefully here. And the second book I have recommended here, and this is something I'm reading at the moment. This is my favorite right now because I'm practicing for my Scrum Master's third PSM3 exam. And this is the Mastering Professional Scrum, written by Scrum trainers of scrum.org as well. And here as well, it does tell you about the framework more, good practice, not good practice. So I have recommended this because it comes from scrum.org. It's good lightweight reading as well. So I have heard from this business owner again, funny, and we had numerous conversations after, not in employment space, but as a agile coffee or meetups as well. So the person started going to meetups and trying to understand how agility works, what the frameworks are. So that was an interesting experience as well. Here I've managed to bring their attention to why it's not good to break the rules and what's the cost to pay. So I think that kind of worked for me. As I've said, this is all cases based on my personal experience. So yeah, so told you about 5 mistakes that leadership make from my perspective. So that was my observation that I've shared with you. And I'm cautious of time. I think if you may have any questions on this topic, happy to answer.
Anna, thank you very much for that. That was great. We'll do questions at the end. I have had some questions come in, so I'll do Q&A at the end to both of you.
Sure. Okay.
Really enjoyed your quote of numerous books. One of the questions we get a lot on Agile London is, can you recommend some great literature for sort of home study? So I know a lot of people will really value that, and I've had quite a few comments to say that they've really enjoyed that. So that's a good move. Okay, so next up we have Sheetal Thaker. So Sheetal, as I said, she's well known to Oliver Bernard. We know her very well. She runs her own meetup, Agile Xpertise. So as I said, do check that out as well. And she is a digital transformation specialist. Her talk tonight is Thrive During Economic Uncertainty with the Propel Business Canvas. So Sheetal, over to you. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see some familiar names on here. Welcome. Just bear with me. I'm going to share my desktop and then start my canvas. Let me know when you can see the screen. Can you see me all right?
You sound, audio's good and the screen is in presentation mode nicely.
Okay. So thank you. So from the camera, I'm going to look that way now so I can see my other screen. So pardon me if you get a side view. So yeah, thank you, Alex, for having me first off. It's great to be collaborating with you. Yeah, I want to talk to you guys about the Propel Business Canvas. It's basically an action item that's actually been triggered by lockdown. So we've all been through a fair bit recently, and I think work has been affected, and people have been impacted in a good way and in a bad way. So what the Propel Business Canvas does is, I'll jump into it so you guys can see. So quick thing about me, nice to meet you. I do, like I said, see some familiar names on the group. So hi to everyone who I know, and also hi to everyone who's new as well. I'm Sheetal, Agile enthusiast. I love knowledge sharing, so that's one of the reasons why I run meetups. I'm good at failing fast and recovering just as fast. I like to question everything and forever have fast feedback. So wherever I'm interacting with people, I'm always asking them for feedback. So today as well, I'd love your feedback at the end. I'm always looking for improvement, and I love to plan everything to the point where this is the reason why I'm such an Agile enthusiast. I plan literally everything, including my barbecue using a Kanban board. So here's an example of my done board when I planned a barbecue. So just a quick one. I think we all really understand why companies go Agile: speed to market, innovation, reduced risk, transparency, product thinking, and cost saving. But how do we get there? That's always a question on everyone's minds. But then we've all been hit by something that's not been very nice. I'll move over from this picture very quickly. So what's the problem right now? Where are we? What's going on? Some of us are probably afraid of leaving the house. We have been through a point of lockdown. So what lockdown means is that you know, this virus is still pretty much looming out there. So we want to kind of figure out how are we going to start changing? We've got to get used to a new normal. We're going back to work tomorrow, as Alex said. On Monday, did you say, Alex? So what does that mean? Do we need to catch a bus? Oh my God, you know, this whole concept of wearing a mask. I can't breathe in these masks. And it's quite a stressful time actually getting out and about and actually interacting with other members of the public. It can be stressful. And what does going back to the office look like? That's going to be a challenge for many as well. And in one of my earlier meetups, we did something called the Value Proposition Canvas, where we looked at what that might look like. And you can always check that out on YouTube. And the other thing is, speaking of tubes, we want to jump on the tube. And we're all like, oh my God, what crap. You know, do we really have to go there? I mean, I'm working from home, I'm productive, it's quite nice, I like it, it's comfortable. So lots of things to solve, lots of changes to make, things to get back on track with. So what I've been doing is I've been kind of working with a lot of my clients recently to talk about how do we get ourselves back on track once we do return back to the office? What could that look like? And how can we leverage Agile in a way that we can make things work again? So what I'm about to show you is something not top secret, but no one's seen it yet. If anything, I think I ran a meetup to introduce the Propel Business Canvas to a group of people back in April or May. And no one else has seen it. So you guys are one of the very few people who are going to see this new framework. And here it is. No, it's not. This isn't it. It's actually inspired by Ash Moira, who is the creator of the Lean Business Canvas. And this is what it looks like. So it's basically a very similar approach to the Lean business model. I'm sure many of you are aware of what that looks like. But the difference is that there's a flow in which you actually go through. So you're not going from one quadrant to the next. You're actually going from one quadrant to the one that precedes it. And so there's a bit of an order to this in comparison to the Lean business model, which is allowing you to you can look at different quadrants at different points of time. We start with what's the problem. We then look at the climate. We then look at your people and understand what's going on there, some considerations. We visualize your process. We understand yes, it is. The Lean Business Canvas is Ash Moira, but not the Propel Business Canvas is inspired by Ash Moira. So I'm just answering the question on the chat. So cost structure I've kept. Then you look at assumptions. What can you prove, disprove? Waste reduction, changes, actions, skills, assets, and tools, and the pipeline of work. Okay, I think I've just probably blown some people's minds here. Just to give you a bit of context, this is one of my approaches to coaching. So when it comes to coaching, I always look at the context, where we are, what's going on, how things are working, and just really get a good feel about what the organization is with the intention to then get a backlog. So if we just break it down now, we'll go through each one step by step. So in the first quadrant, we define what is a problem. I think as most Agile enthusiasts, I think you guys are very familiar with the idea of looking at the 5 whys or the 5 Ws. The 5 whys is, what's the problem? So to get to the problem, so where's the problem? So you look at the problem is, I can't go into the office. Why? You keep asking why 5 times in order to really get to the root of the problem. So in this instance where we are currently, why? I might catch a virus. Why? There's a pandemic going on. Why? There's been a breakout of a terrible virus. Why? Because it's very infectious. Why? There's no present cure. And we're still in this situation. So actually we still have this particular problem currently live. The other way to get to the root of the problem is to look at the 5 Ws, which is a who, what, where, why, when. And you can look at this in very different modes. So you can go, who's impacted, or who's the problem? What's the idea? What's the impact? So I've put something on the other side, which I've called PIPS, which is the problem, idea, impact, prognosis, and solution. And what you can do is you can combine the two. So you can say, who's the problem, or who's got the idea, or who's been impacted, or who's got a prognosis, and who's got an idea for solution. So you can really mix things up a bit. But the core first quadrant is getting to the point of where the problem is and what that problem looks like. So really getting to the root. So that's the first quadrant. The second thing is you want to consider your people. Who are your internal people? So don't forget, everybody's impacted right now. So we want to start asking questions, and we really want to be listening to what they've got to say. That's internal and external. So as a business, we want to be able to look at what's going on internally, but also want to see what impact it's having externally as well. So listen and ask questions on both sides. So in terms of your people, we want to look at what are the jobs to be done? What are the common complaints? Where are the gain creators? So who's got ideas? Who's got things where we can actually start making a difference? Look at things people are caring about. So, with where we are right now with lockdown, people really care about being safe. So what can you do as an organization to keep the people you work with safe? What are your post-COVID-19 needs, for example, and what are the digital alternatives as well? So I've heard through the grapevine and through many clients and many of the employees that we work with, everyone wants to work from home because Zoom has made people so much more productive, effective, and communicative, but they do also have Zoom fatigue. So there's 2 sides to this story. So how do we go through, why did I go through the value proposition? So this is one way of actually understanding your people and leveraging the value proposition in a way to go, okay, so where's the problem? What can we do about it? What are the jobs to be done? Where are your pains? Where are your gains? And then you go looking for opportunities in your value proposition. I'm not going to go too deep into this because I believe many are familiar. If not, then I'm happy to discuss this with you one-to-ones or through messaging. Be happy to go through that. But here's an example of one job we did do in a previous meetup where we were looking for ways in which we will bounce back to work after lockdown. So the third quadrant, we want to understand the current climate. So who are the people? What are the challenges they face? What are your processes? What are the challenges in your current processes? What tools do you have? And actually, what are the challenges you're facing with your tools? And then what are the outcomes? What challenges are you facing with your current outcomes? So again, this quadrant, number 3, looking at your current climate really goes deep into looking into your processes, your people, the tools, and actually what's coming out the other side. There's another example. I am going to fly through it though, but here's one where we've got people returning to work. So who are the people we need right now? We need cleaners. We probably need a new team for cleaning, for example. There's some processes here like cleaning and sanitization of your desktop or your workstations. Might be temperature checks coming back into the office. These are the kind of things that we're kind of leveraging the canvas to you. We're leveraging off the canvas to actually then understand what it's going to take to get back into the workplace. Number 4 and 5, we want to look at our assumptions. What do we know about the situation? what can you prove or disprove, and how would you do that? And you would actually go through, list what assumptions you know about the particular, it could be a project you're working on, it could be a new product you want to deliver, it could be actually exploring and understanding your way back into the workplace. So I'm using lockdown and the return to work as an example, but you can use this canvas for many, many different things. So you can use it for product development, you can use it to build on your projects, you can build on new products, greenfield projects, or even existing ones to improve them. So how do you prove or disprove your assumptions? So you might have an assumption that, oh, we need to sanitize before and after coming in and out of the office. How do you prove or disprove that that works? You know, you then have to go into sort of like scientific experiments, for example. So I'm kind of going a bit off piste here, but I think you get the idea. So when you have a list of assumptions based on a new product you want to deliver, you can experiment to prove that that product is good enough or not, or whether it's got legs. You can run surveys to get feedback from your customers. You can gather scientific evidence based on what I was just saying about how far a virus spreads, for example. You could do test laboratories. We've run many of those in terms of actually user testing, build prototypes, and also leverage of past experience as well. So those are the 4 and 5 quadrants. I hope you're still awake. Trying not to put you to sleep in this short space. Quadrant number 6, you want to visualize your process. Now here, what I tend to do is I take advantage of one of the Agile tools called the value stream. So what we do is we capture the end-to-end processes. We look at who is involved during those end-to-end processes. So starting with your customer, right through to the other end. How does that customer receive an outcome, and what is the process in between? We look at the time it takes to go from A to B, so throughput times, cycle times, and lead times. And then we look at opportunities to remove waste. Here's an example of a really rough end-to-end process with the ideas and features that are coming together for a new product. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Here's an example of a more detailed value stream map where you've got production control, you've got a supplier, and you've got the frequency being recorded, and you've got where customers are coming, and then you've got the frequency of customers receiving their product. So it's looking at the timelines, the resources, and the processes end to end. And in a nutshell, what that is capturing is, I put it on the left-hand side, what data you need, who you need, how long it takes to get from one step to the next, where are your delays, where are you blocked, what areas are wasting time, for example, or where you're gathering too much information or too much product is coming through, where are you losing time, and what points is adding value, and also where are the opportunities. Here's a simplified version. We can create a user journey. I'll just move on from this. Number 7, we would look at the cost structure. So here we're looking at the capital expenditure, the CapEx. So what are you spending now? What are you spending in the short term? And what are you spending in the long term? And actually, it's good to go into a transparent world where you really know what budgets are looking like and what you need to do going forward. And then you've got the OpEx cost structure. So what do you need to spend now? Again, zoomed operational wise. What do you need to keep things ticking along? So in this case, from a lockdown perspective, we need a Zoom subscription. We may need some training to leverage our remote working. For the short term, we may need to start looking at cloud services and thinking about our resources in a different way. And for the long term, we still need to pay rent, we still need to pay our people, and there may be various insurances that we need to pay. So it's just an example of how we could look at cost structure in a deeper way based on the problem that we're looking to solve. Based on the value stream, so just going back to point 5 and 6, one thing that will come out is waste. You will start to see where the waste lies when you go and look at your end-to-end process. So what we would do is we would review your process, identify things that are taking up too much time. We would rate the steps of the process and see how effective each step of the way is. Look for blockers, so find out who's blocking or what's blocking, or is there something that's stopping us from moving to the next stage. And then we would also consider ways in which we can innovate. So look at ways where we could remove waste and replace it with something else. I'll give you an example. We managed to remove waste for the Ministry of Justice, where we had a situation where the company were moving piles of service notices. So notices that needed to go to court were being carried in piles that high, and there were like batches of 10 or 12 paperwork piles. We managed to streamline that whole entire process by making it digital. So rather than moving batches of real paper from one point to another, we ended up transferring data from one point to another, and that completely streamlined the process. So there are always ways to reduce waste, and always try to look for things where you can streamline and remove waste. Quadrant 9, we're looking at the changes and the impact it might have. So think about the changes. So when you build up your value stream, what will come out is a list of things that might trigger ideas, needs to change. And what you want to do in this quadrant is you want to look at what those changes are and how they might impact you. So actually getting you to think ahead a little bit, and also getting you to work backwards a little bit in terms of your outcomes and saying, okay, I want to see this as an outcome. Like, for example, we want to see a safe environment when we return to work. These are the changes we want to see. What does that look like? So what do you need to do in order to make that happen? And also, where might you get blocked? Where might you get stuck? So this surfaces any kind of changes and impacts that you may have. And then from the changes you're realizing, you need to build an action plan. You need to list all the things you need to do. And then you need to identify the steps that you need to take to actually initiate that change. So this canvas isn't for the lighthearted, I have to say. It's something that will take time, but it influences you to actually look and think of consider things from very different perspectives, but also brings things to the surface in a very authentic and kind of collaborative way. So what you're doing is you're actually bringing people together to actually really talk about how can you really make things happen and what are the actions that need to take. So when you go through the quadrants, you should start to see things come to fruition. The next thing we would do, so now we have a list of action items, we know what we want to do. What we then do is we start building what's called a skills and tools matrix. In there, we list all the tools we think we need to make things happen, all the assets we think we might need, what skills. So if we're building a project to deliver, I don't know, some kind of, we want to build a building, for example, what skills we're going to need, a construction worker, and all these different types of skills. Are there any subscriptions online that you might need? So again, this particular scenario is looking at lockdown and what are we going to need to actually return to work? And also think about all the costs. So that goes back to your quadrants for the cost structure. So if we look back on the CapEx and the OpEx, you'll get a list of all the costs that each area is going to cost. And then you need to think about these things as well, because it does have an impact. And then finally, you're at that point now where you're at the point where you've got a backlog starting to build up. But you understand where your blockers are, you've got ideas where you can make changes, and you've got ways in which you know how to make things happen, you know who you need, you know what you need. Now you just need to put that into action. And this is the point where you then enter what we would say is the delivery phase. So you've got your ideas and you know which ones are valuable, so you want to look at them, prioritize them. You could go through a discovery piece and sort of ideate on what you think is valuable, what is going to be a priority, and then you go through the second phase, which is to prioritize that work and capture items that are most value added. Then you can allocate the work, and then you can see who's going to be doing what if you need to, or you can work as a team depending on what your project is. consider ways of working. So I think this is a really important piece. So whenever you form a new group or a new team, I think it's really important and vital that you actually agree on your ways of working. Then you think about how to get it implemented, and then you implement the actions, and then you review your outcomes. So you start going through a cycle very similar to the Agile space. Could be Scrum, could be Kanban, could even work in a safe way or less. It applies to most project delivery formats. So that's the pipeline. So I'm hoping that makes sense. Just to quickly recap, the first step, understand the problem. The second, know your people. The third step, get to know the current climate and where you're at. The fourth stage, make some assumptions based on what you know or what others know. Really have some discussions around, you know, what is really going on and how could you potentially resolve things. Put some ideas together. Once you've got the ideas, prove or disprove what those ideas are so that you can start to really move forward in a positive way with ideas and outcomes that you think are likely to work. So that includes experimentation, it includes doing research, it includes doing prototypes. And then visualize your process. Think about where you are currently and what can you do differently, what can you change. You know, it's a long process, it's quite intense, but it's quite powerful. Then think about the costs and, you know, how effective is it going to be economically? Because I think for most organizations today, economic recovery is going to be one of the sort of like front and center pieces of delivery challenges that we might be facing. The next, think about waste reduction. Really look at your end-to-end process and look for points where time is being lost, time is being wasted. There might be too many people or too few people. Really think about where time or money or resources are just not being utilized correctly. I think that's where I'm going with the waste reduction area. Then with the ideas that are forming, make some decisions, be brave with those decisions and be okay with those decisions. Think about it as in, we are going through big changes right now. Don't be afraid to say, this is no longer working. Then go forward, think about the changes you want to make and what that impact might look like. So try to preempt what that change and what the impact might look like and see if you could actually build it a better way or do things differently or make it better, or is that the surefire way to go? Number 10, then start to take action. So you know what you need to do, think about where your quick wins are and start with your quick wins. Back to 11, again, know who you need, know what you need, and know how you're going to do it. And then pipeline of work, that's your backlog. Bring and build your backlog. So this is your way to start allocating things, putting things into perspective, getting all the people in the right place, and then getting back on track. So thank you for listening. I hope I took half an hour and not much more of your time. This is a workshop that's quite complex, but also really, really effective. It really gets you to a point where you've got a certainty as to where you're going to be headed next. So I hope, I hope you found that useful. It's a very quick fire way of getting you through it, but I'll just show you the canvas again so you can have a quick look. But yeah, that's me.
Sheetal, thank you very much indeed. That was excellent. Got some good questions come in as well, so I'll dive straight into those. So, question for Anna: should Agile coaches be involved with every development meeting?
Good question. My personal opinion, not really, because this is where you're stepping into the waters of trying to be everywhere, and people will be relying on you all the time. So you need to have awareness of meetings that are happening and ask if you need to facilitate them for people. And then depending on what they want to get out of these meetings. At the beginning, maybe it's interesting to know the cadence of the meetings and what they want out of all of them. But at the same time, facilitation as an offer, but not as a forced one. And yeah, so it's probably not for all of the meetings, no.
Thank you very much. Sheetal, I'm going to come to you on a question now. I've just had somebody request that you share the canvas again. Do you want to just do that while you answer the question that I ask?
Sure, no worries. I'm also happy to, can you see the right screen?
Yeah, that's fine. Just to remind everyone, this session is recorded. It will be on Oliver Bernard's YouTube channel. Sheetal also has a YouTube channel, so this will go up on hers, and I believe Anna is starting one. Also, I do recommend to everyone to connect with our speakers after, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer any questions and interact with you, you know, to follow on from this event. Sheetal, which methodology do you prefer and why, i.e. Scrum versus Kanban?
I'm a huge fan of Scrum, but I think that's because I work with a lot of people who are new to the Agile philosophy and the frameworks and structures. So I actually like both because I think they both give value in different ways. So kind of contradicting my answer there a little bit. But yeah, Scrum to begin with, but I think as teams start to mature, I tend to move people over to Kanban.
Okay, thank you. Question to you both here. So Anna, as Sheetal has just spoken, I'll come to you first. Any idea of how, and I'm sure a lot of people within Agile get this a lot, and we've had this question a few times, any idea of how we can prove to management that Agile is helping to deliver a better outcome? So Anna, I'll go to you first, then Sheetal, just jump in with your answer after Anna spoke.
You need to be aware of what management sees as better. You said the word better outcomes. So what is better in management eyes? And then you offer them to track this better. So you break down this better. For some people, better is time to market. For some teams, better is that we are increasing our quality. For some teams, better is we're actually producing something to deployment to product at the end of it. So definition of better is a good start here. You agree with management what this is how they see it, and you offer them to work with them to see the improvement in those areas that they have identified. Yeah.
Sorry, Alex, could you repeat the question again, please?
Yep, it is, just bear with me. That's I've scanned down to go to the next question. Any idea of how we can prove to management that Agile is helping to deliver a better outcome?
Yeah, so I would definitely say never start with a gung-ho approach and make everyone Agile. I would say you need to prove that it works first. So start small and prove little wins. So for example, you could start by, I don't know, measuring how long it takes from you to get an idea to deliver the idea, and record that and show that. Or you could sort of start by creating a pilot team and saying, okay, this is your team. It's your worst performing team in the organization. Let's get them better. Let's make them better. Let's test this new strategy. Let's test out new things with this team and see what we can do to improve, and actually start showing the outcomes as a result. So there's a number of ways where you can actually prove and show how Agile can be better. But I think it is down to the culture, the personality of the leadership that you're dealing with. So yeah, it all depends. But I think start small. Start with small, quick wins.
Thank you. Anna, which is a better metric, flow metrics or objective and key results?
Crikey. Is it a test? I'll probably say it depends on the situation. Flow metrics may work for those who need to identify the bottlenecks. Again, what management would like to see and measure here. I would not lie to you, I'm not that terribly familiar with those both, but you know, those are not the metrics that I've worked with actively. In Agile space, I've been advising to break down the metrics into the, say, teams, quality, process, time to market, and focus on those as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. To Sheetal, what is your point of view on aligning value streams to the business canvas? The speaker, the questioner has said that they found business canvas is more vertical versus value streams, and value streams are more horizontal in organisations. That question did go in there to everyone, so if I wasn't too clear there, just read it in chat.
Let me just have a quick look. I have to stop sharing to see it.
And just while Sheetal is doing that, I'm going to post a link to Oliver Bernard's YouTube channel and post it in the chat of tonight's event on our meetup page. But to be honest, if you type in Oliver Bernard YouTube on Google, it does come up and it takes you straight there. Every single one of our events is recorded, so it'll be there. Have I got you, Sheetal?
Yeah, you've got me. In fact, I'm actually going to ask Aaron to just kind of emphasize on what he means by vertical versus horizontal. What is he talking about? Sorry.
Yep. Can you see me okay or no?
Yeah. We can
Okay, good. No, thank you. It was a fantastic talk today. So what I found is that when you kind of get past the glow period, I sort of call it the, like the romancing and sort of, pre-relationship period, when you roll out value streams, or a lot of these methodologies, but especially value streams, you then run straight into the real work product in the company, whether it's especially if it's a more industrial company, because they're not moving things around plant floors for experiments. And what I found is that when you do that, you sort of flatten the metrics-driven approach, right? You're looking to optimize, it goes back to, TPS type models, basically. And what I found when you give more business canvas is that you sort of have more of a vertical corporate centric view, right? You have stakeholders from marketing, from operations, from sales, et cetera, all throughout it. So you do get this great holistic view, but then once it's sort of handed back over to the value stream owners, which tend to be process cross horizontal, they say, well, that's great. I look forward to the slides when I have to actually make a new request for my value stream next year, and I'll glue these two together. But I'm really just going to ask for my value stream money anyways. And I've struggled with, I would almost, sorry for the long-winded question, is almost creating the engineering side of the business canvas into the value stream, especially in more industrial companies, which I deal with quite a bit. Does that make sense? I mean, That's
a bit, yeah. So I think the business canvas and the value stream, they don't necessarily go hand in hand, but I found myself putting it in there in this new canvas because I really think that when you can visualize the process, and that's what I refer to when I talk about the value stream, is that you want to actually see what's going on. So I think actually adding it to the canvas, I think, is super valuable because it brings things to the surface. It brings things to the front as either an issue or even good things to celebrate as well. So I would say that the alignment of value streams to the canvas is actually really powerful because I think it brings to the surface things that need to be done, things where you're challenged, things where you might be blocked. And it brings to the surface those key things. And what they do in the value stream areas thereafter, it depends on the individuals that you deal with, I think.
Yep. Oh, thank you so much. And by the way, great, nice piano behind you. And I know I know someone plays it because the key cover is open. So that's great.
Thank you for your question, Aaron. Thanks for jumping in there. So the final question for both of you that's come in tonight is, and Anna, we'll go to you first, as Sheetal's just answered, and then again, Sheetal just jumped straight in. Hi both, amazing talks, have loved hearing from you tonight. I'm new to Agile. What advice could you offer to someone like myself and help me with the beginning of my journey? Anna, you're on mute.
Sorry. It's a very simple answer. Start attending meetups and do exactly what you do. You're in the right space already. Become curious. Ask, join the Agile communities, ask for the books they can recommend, ask for their experience, ask for frameworks and their experience with those as well. Go on blogs, read that, because you will form your own agile understanding yourself, and you form your own good practices that are supporting this framework as well, and agility. So this is your journey, and it's an exciting point for you. So be curious, and that's all you need to do.
Yep, that's really, really good advice. And I think just to add to all that, I would say that just try. So what I did is I ended up agiling my whole life. But what I'm saying is that, you know, just pick up Post-it notes, Sharpies, and just start putting things together in this form, learn to prioritize things, and actually just start watching how work gets completed. So visualize your work. Either if you want to be digital, start looking at something like Trello board, create a board for yourself of things that you need to achieve. So make a to-do list. So you have a to-do list of things that you need to do. Prioritize things that you want to start working on first, and then move it through a simple board, just like to do, doing, and done. So just start with that, and see if you can sort of like start to see how your work is being delivered, or whatever it is you're doing. I mean, like I said in my my talk, I planned my own barbecue just using a Kanban board. So that was just a list of to-do things that I was doing, and then things that got done. And I would initial on each Post-it note who was doing what as well. And then that would lead people to just pick up a Post-it note and then move it to the doing pile. So try and practice Scrum and Agile or Kanban, depending on where, you know, where you're kind of leaning towards. Ask questions, like Anna said, read books if you need some more book advices. Anna's a great place to go. So, and I could also help with my ideas and book ideas. Attend the meetups for sure. There's always something new to learn. It's a huge plethora of education in amongst the meetups that we've got here. So I'll definitely say leverage those as well.
And don't be afraid, because knowledge can be overpowering. Sometimes it's so much to take. Step by step, and small portions of that will be definitely helpful.
Thank you very much. And that's the end of our questions for this week. Anna, Sheetal, thank you so much for your talks this week. They were absolutely fantastic. I've had a few requests come in to have exposure to your slides. Are you both okay to share those?
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant, brilliant. So thank you for that.
That'll be actually, I'm going to be providing a download link. I'm actually rebranding my website right now, so there'll be a download link on the website, so I can share that with you guys, if that's okay.
That's great. Thank you very much. And thank you so much to everyone else who's joined this evening. You know, I've said it previously, but these events just don't happen without amazing speakers like Anna and Sheetal, and everyone who joins and participates in these. You know, as I said, we've got over 4,000 members on our meetup page now. The Agile community for Oliver Bernard is really, really growing. And these will continue every Wednesday. I've got speakers booked up until, I think, the end of September. But next week is the launch of our first Agile London Super 6. So my sort of drive behind this was to allow the audience to hear from 6 speakers in the space of 60 minutes on the 6th of the month, hence the Super 6. But I sort of got the impression that a lot of people want to hear from many people, but don't have too much time. So next week, you can hear from Ben Maynard, Jana Lace, John Spruce, Nancy Uboman, Anik Subban, and Emma Hopkinson Spark, all within the space of 60 minutes. So make sure you join next Wednesday at 6 p.m. and spread the word, let everyone know, and let's make it an even bigger event than this evening. We had great numbers on tonight, so thank you for everyone to joining. As I say, it is recorded. Have a look at our YouTube channel. If you want to connect to me, my name's Alex Scriven. I'm quite easy to find on LinkedIn. But once again, Sheetal and Anna, thank you very much for your talks this evening. It was great to have you on.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
No problem. Have a good evening, everyone, and I hope to see you next Wednesday. Spread the word.
Bye-bye.